My name is Paisley, and I grew up in a single-parent home. When I was a child, my dad passed away, so my mom raised me by herself. I never felt sad about having just one parent. Even though my mom was always busy, I admired her because she worked hard to keep the architecture firm she and my dad started running. I wanted to be like her, successful in my career. But one day, something happened that changed how I felt about her. My boyfriend, Matteo, is 3 years older than me. We met at a college party. His family is wealthy, and he got a job at a bank through his family's connections. He works as an elite banker. Since we started dating, he has been generous, giving me gifts and taking me to nice restaurants. He can be a little indecisive sometimes, but he's kind and a great guy. Recently, Matteo and I talked about getting married. I just graduated from college this spring and started working, so getting married right away is difficult. Plus, I want some time for myself, but we both think it would be nice to start a family together soon. Today, I'm meeting Matteo's parents to get to know them and talk about our plans to marry. It's my first time visiting their home. To make a good impression on his wealthy, middle-aged parents, I worked hard on my outfit, hairstyle, and makeup to look charming but natural. I want them to see me as a good match for Matteo. With these thoughts, I headed toward the front door to leave the house. "Mom, I'm heading out. I'm going to visit Matteo's house today," I said. "Oh, right. Make sure to be polite," my mom, who was working from home, said, looking up from her computer. "I know. See you later," I said, leaving the house feeling excited. After taking a train and a bus, I arrived at Matteo's house in the neighboring town. It's a huge house, like something out of a fairy tale. I had Matteo tell me his parents' favorite cake shop beforehand, and I bought a cake there. I rang the doorbell. "Ah, Paisley, we've been expecting you." "Welcome," Matteo greeted me with a gentle smile as I stepped inside. When I entered the living room, I realized how spacious and grand the house was. The decor was elegant and fancy, making me feel the wealth of Matteo's father, who is a bank executive. "Nice to meet you. My name is Paisley," I said, feeling a bit intimidated but still smiling and bowing my head to greet them. "Welcome, Paisley. We're pleased to meet you. Please have a seat. I'll prepare some tea, so please wait a moment," Matteo's mother said warmly. "Paisley, I'm Matteo's father. Welcome to our home. Please make yourself comfortable," said my future father-in-law. Matteo's parents were kind, just as I imagined. They seemed like a perfect family in a fairy tale. We started talking over the tea and cake I had brought. His mother was a great talker, and his father was a good listener. Matteo joined in sometimes and nodded along to my stories. I thought this happy time would last forever, but everything changed when we talked about my family. "So, you lost your father at the age of 5, and then your mother raised you alone? Paisley, she must be a wonderful woman. I respect her as a fellow mother. The fact that you've become such a wonderful woman is a testament to your mother's upbringing. We need to learn from her as parents," Matteo's mother said, praising my mom and me. "Yes, my mother is indeed my role model," I replied, feeling hopeful about having a good relationship with Matteo's family. But then Matteo's mother changed her tone. "However," she said, "coming from a single-parent household and being self-employed, I'm afraid it's not quite suitable for you to become Matteo's wife." Matteo's father nodded in agreement, adding, "It's a matter of trust and stability. We're concerned about potential financial issues and the reliability of such a background." I was shocked. They had just praised me, and now they were calling me unsuitable. I didn't know what to say and instinctively turned to Matteo for support. "Mom, Dad, not this again. What does it matter, her family situation? It's a minor fact," Matteo defended me. But his parents wouldn't listen to him. "No matter the reason, we can't trust a family with only one parent. We'd be troubled if we were asked to lend money because of financial difficulties," Matteo's father said, looking more serious. "Besides, it's not common for a single mother to be able to send her daughter to college. It makes us suspicious if there was another man's support involved. We can't accept a loose woman as a family member. Our family has been bankers since my grandfather's time," Matteo's mother said. Her words hurt even more because they weren't outright insults. Matteo tried to argue back, but he couldn't convince them, and they ended up arguing among themselves. "We can accept that you're just dating her for fun, but you should consider the impossibility of marrying her. The lifestyle levels are too different between you and this girl. I think you'll end up breaking up due to differences eventually," Matteo's father concluded. Matteo couldn't argue back. He just listened to his parents quietly. Finally, he turned to me with his head bowed. "I'm sorry, Paisley. I can't marry you after all," he said. What? Just because I'm from a single-parent family, do I have to give up marrying you? I asked, feeling devastated. I don't want to say this either. Please don't blame me, Matteo replied, his voice strained. You knew about my family situation for a long time, didn't you? You even met my mother. Do you also think that my family and I are unsuitable for your family? I asked, hoping he would disagree. Matteo, who usually struggled to make decisions in situations like this, said nothing. His silence was the clearest answer. He must have thought that marrying me wouldn't be a good match, just like his parents said. I felt sad. I never thought that not only his family, but even Matteo would reject me just because I come from a single-parent household. Paisley, please just go home, he finally said with a strained voice. Honestly, I didn't want to stay there a second longer either. I'm leaving. I'm sorry for the trouble, I said. No one tried to stop me. They probably felt relieved that I left. With tears streaming down my face, I retraced my steps and went straight back home. When I got home, my mother noticed my tears and asked me what happened. There was no point in lying to her. She knew where I had been and what I was doing. It felt like I was dishonoring my mother's way of life, and I really didn't want to tell her. But I told her everything. As expected, my mother was infuriated by the harsh treatment I had received. Well, so that's the kind of family they are. It seems like your boyfriend Matteo was just going along with them. Certainly, a marriage with a guy like that wouldn't last long, so I think it's better not to marry him, she said, trying to comfort me. Mom, I began, but she continued. It must have been tough. You did well, my mom said. Even after hearing the terrible things that Matteo's family said about her, my mom still worried about me and hugged me. Then she asked, which bank does Matteo's father work for? I remembered the name of the bank clearly because Matteo often bragged about it. When I told my mom, she seemed to understand. Paisley, your mom might not earn a lot and you don't have a father in the house. It's okay to feel unlucky about that, but remember, you should never feel embarrassed or inferior, she said. After your father left, I raised you always believing this, so I will never forgive Matteo and his family, she added. Even though I had cried my eyes out on the way home, tears began to well up again. My mom's words reminded me of something important. I love my mom very much. I admire her hard work and I want to be just like her someday. It's ridiculous to deny my admiration for her for the sake of Matteo and his family, who dismiss it for such a trivial reason. The next day, my mom said to me, I checked, and as I thought, our company does have dealings with Matteo's father's bank. I don't want to deal with a bank where the father of a man who dumped my daughter so harshly works, so I'm going to cancel the contract. I'll explain the whole situation. I don't know what will happen, but if they say trust is important, let's make sure they understand that they no longer have my trust. Mom called the bank right when it opened, bypassed the loan officer, and asked for the branch manager. Branch manager, she began. We're terminating our dealings with you. Yes, I'm sorry it's so sudden, but it seems that one of your officers has severely mistreated my daughter. If you're willing to hear the details, I'd be happy to come and explain it personally. What do you say? She finished. I overheard my mom's conversation just before I went to work. I knew she was going to terminate the contract, but I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't understand what it meant until a few days later when I got a call from Matteo asking me to meet him at a nearby park. When I arrived, Matteo and his parents were there. His parents were glaring at me. Matteo asked me in a troubled voice. My dad suddenly got fired, and when I asked why, they said it was because of my girlfriend. What on earth have you done, Paisley? In that moment, I understood everything. What it means to sever a contract and what it means for a banker to lose trust. It all became clear to me. If someone who lends and borrows money based on trust loses that trust, they essentially lose their livelihood. If there's a cause that erodes the vital trust from customers, it must be eliminated. In other words, his father was expelled from the company as the root of all evils that undermine trust. What I discovered later was that Matteo and his father, just like they did with me, looked down on customers who they considered poor, causing them all sorts of problems. It seemed it was only a matter of time before they were fired. The final straw was just a call from my mother. This wasn't something I accomplished through my own strength. I don't possess such power, but it was something my family did for me. I should tell them this proudly and confidently. You insulted my mother, so she retaliated with her power, I stated. Matteo's father responded incredulously, What? There's no way a company run by the parents of a poor girl like you could have enough influence to get me fired just by filing a complaint. Indeed, the company run in my parents' name isn't that large, but my mother's influence isn't limited to just one design office she runs. Even without direct involvement in management, she holds a position that allows her to influence companies. I replied, now, I can fully understand the meaning of all the transactions my mother had with the bank at the time. I'm sure it's something like this. My mom's company itself isn't large. However, my mom is also registered as a non-executive director in several companies my grandfather runs. So what it means to have enough influence over you guys is that all contracts with my grandfather's companies were also terminated. I listed a few of the companies my grandfather manages. The color drained from his father's face quickly. That's ridiculous, he muttered. There's nothing strange about it, I said. After all, he's my grandfather, right? Why would he want to deal with a bank that disrespected his granddaughter and daughter? It seemed they finally understood why they were fired so suddenly. Their attitude completely changed. They fell to their knees right there, pressing their foreheads to the ground and sobbing. Even with this spectacle in front of me, I could only think of them as pitiful. Matteo clung to me, begging, Paisley, I'm sorry for everything. I was truly serious about wanting to marry you. I just thought you should go home for a while because my parents were being difficult. He was making excuses, trying to save himself. But I was done with him. I shrugged off his weak arm and told him, my mom is amazing, isn't she? She's my role model. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I really hate you now for disrespecting her. I'm going home because my mom worries. Goodbye, and please never contact me again. I turned and walked away. Too weak to chase after me, he could only watch silently as I left, kneeling on the ground just like his parents. After that, his family, now unemployed, couldn't maintain their lifestyle. They started selling their cars and luxury goods one by one, and eventually, they even had to sell their house. Hearing this from my mom and grandpa, who heard through the bank, I felt deep down that I dodged a bullet by not marrying him. He will likely continue to struggle with his pride and financial issues. I hoped he would learn to live within his means, and my mother and I laughed about it. As for me, I just started working. There are more things I can't do than things I can. But I've learned a lot from this experience. Of course, I want to be better at choosing a partner, but I also want to become stronger myself. My goal remains unchanged. I want to be a successful, strong working woman like my mother. To protect and support my family like she does, I want to work hard every day to become a strong woman.